It's the 1970s outside, and your father is about your age. Fresh out of college, he's working a stable 9-to-5 job, and in a few years he will be able to buy his first car. Then, after a few more years, he will buy his first house. When he's around the age of 30, he will marry and have you. And then there's you. You're probably working 2 jobs right now just to make ends meet. It feels like a lot of work, but you still feel like you're not paid enough. You don't have much in savings. What you have though is an annoying credit card and student debt hanging above your head. A house, a family, it all sounds like a distant dream. You scroll down the feed and see all those influencers living their best lives at such a young age, flexing watches, buying big houses and luxury cars that you could only dream of. Then all those people are shouting in your face, you're not good enough.
Because I want you to see that you're a worthless piece of
You're not hustling enough.
Only losers can! Only losers chill! You got loser DNA!
You don't have it because you don't want it bad enough. Don't you want to be happy? Don't you want your parents to be proud of you? No matter how hard you work, it's never enough.
You're broke! You're poor!
It all makes you feel like a failure. It makes you angry. It makes you desperate. You ask yourself, why them and not me? Are they really smarter than me? They must have got lucky. Their parents are rich. They are scammers, and I'm not like them. I'm an honest person. Or maybe I'm just unlucky. But what if I told you that you're doing everything right and you're not worse than your dad at your age? You're not lazier or more stupid. It's just the world around you that has changed and it's keeping you trapped. In the past, the American dream was portrayed as the life of a nuclear family, usually consisting of a man who would work a 9-to-5 job that could support his wife, 2 children, a pet dog, a car, and a house. The main idea of the American dream was that with hard work, you could achieve a comfortable and stable life. But today, things have changed. In today's economy, the model of a nuclear family is no longer valid. It became impossible to live a fulfilling life by only working a 9-to-5 job. Many young people are struggling to support themselves because most of the jobs don't pay enough. And if decades ago a young boomer could afford a middle-class lifestyle as a janitor, now a young person has to be the most frugal, savvy, and valedictorian to even get a shot for the same thing boomers got. Bernie Sanders, an American senator, said that the American dream has become a nightmare.
I do not believe this economy is strong when 35 million Americans in our country struggled to put food on the table last year.
That's because the classic American dream, including 2 kids, a house, and a car, now costs more than most make in a lifetime. Working a 9-to-5 job is no longer enough to ensure financial stability, but rather just to pay the bills and have a place to sleep in. As a result, many young people have turned to side hustles and working multiple jobs just to make ends meet. So instead of a comfortable family life in your own house and driving your own car, the idea of a dream has become a struggle to be financially stable and not live paycheck to paycheck. But why is that? Why does our generation fight so much to achieve what our parents accomplished much more easily and at a younger age? Well, what I found are a few reasons, and they might surprise you. For decades, the belief that a college education is the key to financial success and a bright future has been a deeply ingrained idea in modern society. While it could have been partially true 20 years ago that someone with a college degree would find a better paying job than someone with a college education, today things are much more complicated. For a young person, a college degree doesn't guarantee that he'll get a higher paying job, or even any at all. However, the cost of education worldwide continues to skyrocket, leaving graduates with a staggering amount of debt that they will have to carry for years to come, and some of them won't be able to pay it even in a lifetime.
Student loan debt is crushing more and more Americans, some wondering, is a college degree worth the price?
One expert says college debt is a ticking time bomb that could have devastating effects.
The higher costs of higher education is creating a stranglehold on mobility for some, and many say it's only getting worse.
How much have you pulled so far?
It'll be about 300 by the end of it.
It is very much something to worry about because it's over $250K in debt.
Currently, I have $65,000 of student debt, and I'll graduate with close to $100,000.
And then you have big names such as Bill Gates, Michael Dell, Richard Branson, and Jack Dorsey, to name a few, who dropped out of college, built their companies from scratch, and became insanely rich and successful. That statistic has a significant impact on the younger generation, which no longer wants to be left with a huge financial burden in an extremely competitive job market after 4 to 6 years of college, falling further into financial depression and doubt, while people without a degree were able to use those same years to develop high-paying skills or even build a profitable business. Even though a lot of companies have made big announcements about how they don't care about college degrees as a way to get some free publicity from news outlets, they are still going to pick the candidate who does have a college degree in most cases over a candidate who doesn't. And then there are millennials. You know, those people who constantly complain that life back then was much harder and that the younger generation is just dumb and lazy while struggling to refresh the Chrome page on their Android.
I don't know where you got this. We don't do paper applications.
I made it. I don't do the internet.
The problem is that millennials were convinced that hard work was the only path to success, and if you're dedicated and work the extra hours, you'll be successful guaranteed. But once again, it may not be the case in today's world. Have you ever heard the phrase, if you want to earn more, you should change your job every 3 years? This approach is often used by young people, not because they are incapable of being loyal, but because loyalty is no longer rewarded financially. 30 years ago, it was usual for a man to work at the same company until retirement. That's because companies used to reward and promote those who were loyal and stayed with the company for more than 10 years. For example, Procter & Gamble has a long history of rewarding employee loyalty, with some employees staying for 50 years or more. They offer a range of benefits, including a generous retirement plan and even stock options. Today, things have changed. Because so many young, educated people compete for the same job, many businesses simply do not care about their employees, considering them disposable material. Many employers have adopted the hire and fire approach to management, meaning that once used up, the material is thrown away when it's exhausted. It is a product of the business school mentality that the only purpose of a business is to make money. The same business guy who says that as gospel will be the first to whine that workers aren't loyal. It's okay for him to be only in it for money, but it's awful when workers take the same attitude. A lot of it has to do with human resources departments getting more influence. They believe that people are inputs into production, like raw materials or machinery. They spend their careers manipulating people because it's easier than working for a living. Very few business people or managers today have worked a business from the ground up. Most were born into it or had mommy pay their way through school. So they are arrogant and have no respect for the people who do the actual work.
You're born into a crisis, and then the financial crisis happens, a pandemic happens, there's a land war in Europe, and so I think for a lot of people it's like, wow, like the system is always trending towards disorder.
This uncertainty, along with the awareness that they would most likely have to work for the rest of their lives just to buy a home, has driven many young people to find a second job or start a side hustle, leaving them with little to no time for themselves. And while it may initially resolve some money problems, it will inevitably result in exhaustion and mental health issues in the long run. If people can buy a home and enter the housing market because prices are too high, they rent. But since everybody is renting, that also jacks up the price of renting. And every part of the country is just plagued with housing shortages because there are not enough affordable houses in America for everybody to have a place to live. Essentially, we have a situation where everybody is competing for the exact same thing, and there is no sign that that's going to change anytime soon. Renting even a one-bedroom apartment is now unaffordable everywhere in the country for someone earning a minimum wage and saving for a house. It's almost impossible in expensive cities with good job opportunities. A New Yorker with a college degree would need to commit to 7.5 years of dedicated savings to have enough to make a down payment on an entry-level apartment. The problem is that dedicated saving can only start after they pay off their student loans, which now on average takes 20 years. After they buy the entry-level apartment, they then have a 30-year mortgage to pay off. If this person started working at 22, they would be 79 years old before they were a debt-free homeowner in New York in an ideal scenario. Variables like starting a family, getting sick, or earning less than the average college graduate would put them even further behind. Do you ever find yourself scrolling through social media, seeing other people get the job they dreamed of, bragging about making millions from their successful businesses, taking luxurious vacations or buying expensive stuff? Perhaps you admire someone, an influencer or a movie star, who has more money than you and who lives the life you want. He is right in front of you, behind the screen, and you can even connect with him by liking and commenting. Perhaps you've been following him for so long that you think you know this person in real life. You start associating yourself with that person. That's when mimetic desire appears. Mimetic desire means that we're adopting another person's desire as our own, usually without even realizing it. Social media has given us millions of mimetic models that we now have to contend with. Some people went from having 10 mimetic models to now having 1 million, and this has a huge impact on the mental health. There are two kinds of mimetic models. The first kind is called an external mediator of desire. In simple terms, these are models that are outside of our world. There's no possibility of us coming into contact with them, and certainly not becoming rivals with them. They are in some sense outside of our world of desire and outside of our world of competition. Now, these external models of desire can be real or they can be fictional. The other kind of model is inside of our world, called internal mediators of desire. These are people that we do come into contact with, and there is a possibility of conflict or rivalry with them. These are people that are in our family, our workplace, or people that could even be our friends. It's easier to compare ourselves to them, because they are the kinds of people we look to as benchmarks, and we're far more likely to be envious of someone that we personally know, who now has a great job and a beautiful house, than we are to be envious of the richest person in the world. The danger of external mediators of desire and keeping up with people who are very successful, with people who have modeled a certain kind of lifestyle, is that there is no end to that process. All desire is a form of transcendence. We desire to go beyond the boundaries, to be the kind of person we don't feel we currently are. But all desire comes from us feeling like we lack something, and that can bring us into a dangerous, vicious cycle, because there will always be another model to find.